Hey solos, so I went to Walt Disney World all by myself. Do I have some recommendations for you based on this trip? Solo spoiler, of course I do. That's literally why I have a podcast and I cannot wait to share them with you. Hi everyone, it's Samantha. Olaf may not know who Samantha is, but now you do, and welcome to Disney Solo Magic, the #1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World, now in its second year of operation. Now, as I talked about in the last episode, one of the ways I wanted to mark this anniversary was to start a Patreon. And what I hope it will be, and what I hope it will turn into, is a place of community where you all can connect with each other, where you all can ask questions, where you all can share your stories. And I'm really hoping that that is a place that we can do that, especially after a very not fun experience I had in a Facebook group, actually a couple, this particular trip. And I just came back to the hotel and I was like, oh my gosh, this is why having that Patreon and the chat rooms and all that stuff will be so great. However, if that's not your thing, it's also going to be a lot more behind the scenes information, some unfiltered opinions and reviews and things like that. So please join us there. I'm really hoping that there'll be a good dozen of us. That's my goal. A good dozen of us that can kind of come together and have these conversations and to be able to build this community even stronger. So please join me on Patreon. The tiers go from $2 American to $7 American, or $3 Canadian to $10 Canadian. There's the popcorn tier, the Mickey bar tier, and then the highest tier is the Dole Whip tier that will have special episodes just for you, as well as what I'm hoping will be video, chat, hangouts, things like that, as well as a birthday card from me every year. and then also a special behind the scenes, a little reflection on the episodes after every episode. So anyway, join me on Patreon. That's really great. You can also join me on Instagram, Threads, and Facebook. That isn't going to change. And yeah, it was such a great way to start the second year of this podcast while being at Disney World. And so thank you so much for joining me on sharing these stories. Let's get right on into it. So, it's always really difficult to organize these post-trip episodes for you because I want to tell you everything. But I also want to provide some reviews and information, informational information. And I also want to do deep dives on particular things that I saw or experienced. And that's a lot for one episode. So what I'm going to do for this episode is I'm going to focus on those 5 different questions that I asked you in the survey. I'm going to talk about those different 5 things, although it was a lot more than 5 things. And then I'm going to do a deep dive on a couple of the other things in bonus episodes and also on the Patreon. So you can hold on for that. Next week, I'm going to talk all about Flower and Garden and celebrating it both in the parks, but also at home. So a lot of my Flower and Garden content will be then, but don't worry, I will talk about that a little bit on this episode as well. Okay, so a couple episodes ago, no, it's been over a month now, I asked you 5 different questions about my upcoming trip and asked you to help me plan the trip, help me make some decisions about the trip. The first one was whether I should go to Blizzard Beach, the water park, for free when I came in, or go to the outlet shopping, and overwhelmingly you said outlet shopping. The second question was whether I should go to Crystal Palace, try a new restaurant that I hadn't tried before, or whether or not I should go to my tried and true Columbia Harbor House at Magic Kingdom. Overwhelmingly, you said Crystal Palace. I asked you whether or not I should just do drinks at the new Polynesian Lounge, or I should do a full dinner. And that was really 50-50. So thank you for allowing me to make that choice myself. Although anyway, whatever. So that was a 50-50. I also asked you whether or not I should prioritize capturing certain things like Dino Land or Tom Sawyer's Island, since there's a bit of an expiration date on that, or I should just focus on my plan of doing Flower and Garden and Muppets Vision 3D, which also has expiry dates. And then the final question was whether it should just be an action-packed trip or whether or not it should be relaxing. And overwhelmingly, importantly, for both of those two questions, you were like, no, just do Flower and Garden, Muppets Vision 3D. Don't worry about Dino Land, and just relax. Don't worry about going like too full on, and just kind of relax and restore. And I said in last week's episode that that type of answer really inspired me actually to start the Patreon, because I was really thinking about how important it is that we have spaces of safety and healing, and that you identifying that is something that I should prioritize on the trip is an indication to me that we are all kind of on the same page about what Disney can be. Yes, fun and rides and all of that stuff, but in doing that, we also can have some space for healing, and that we should kind of prioritize that. So those were the things that you had voted on for me. What did I do? Well, I definitely did all of those things, but I also could add on. So let's talk about day one. Day one, I arrived, and I actually was going to meet up with one of the people that I've interviewed on this podcast, Lauren. I interviewed her a couple weeks ago, or I guess it's a lot more than that, maybe about a month ago, and she was just so fantastic, so much fun. She came to the interview full on Figment, and she's like, "This is why people love Figment," and I was like, okay, I get it. Totally. No problem. And we found out we were going to be at Disney at the same time. And so we created all these opportunities to just kind of meet up again. That's one of the reasons why it'd be really cool for this Patreon to catch on, because it was really, really fun to meet up with a solo from the podcast. She wasn't the only person I met up with on the trip, but it was really nice to connect. And I said to her, well, I'm going to go to the outlet mall on the first day. Do you want to join me? And because she had a car, she was also working during the day. So she's like, yeah, let's go in the evening. So when I arrived in Orlando at noon, I knew I was going to see Lauren in the evening, and I'm like, well, why don't I go to Blizzard Beach? And that's what I did. So I was able to do both. I was able to do the water park, and I was able to go outlet shopping, which was amazing, by the way. It's hard to know how much information I should provide you with Blizzard Beach here. I don't think it's enough for a full bonus episode. So let's talk a little bit about Blizzard Beach. Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Lagoon are both free if you are staying at a Walt Disney World Resort hotel. The day that you check in, it is completely free to enter these parks. If you are doing a split stay, if you're going to be at two different hotels during your stay, you get that free day for both of the days that you check into your hotel. So just so you know, right now Blizzard Beach is open, and since COVID, there's only been one water park that's been open at one time. So it's either Blizzard Beach or Typhoon Lagoon. But while I was away, they actually announced that both Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach are going to be open during this summer, which is going to be great. So I, even though it was clear from the voting that a lot of people weren't really that interested, I don't like to leave money on the table, and I was really kind of interested in checking it out. I was also interested in checking it out because I wanted to, as I mentioned in the last episode, remind myself what it's like to go to a park that I've never been to before. So I went to Blizzard Beach. Unless you're staying at the All-Star Hotels or Coronado Springs, the way you get to Blizzard Beach is you take a bus to Animal Kingdom. When you get to Animal Kingdom, you then transfer to a bus that is going to Blizzard Beach. Now, that does seem like a pain in the behind. I totally get that. But it wasn't too bad. In fact, the bus drivers even suggested that we cross at a place that usually visitors don't cross at, only cast members cross at, but in crossing in this other location, it was a closer walk to the bus. And for both there and back, the buses were there right away because they know people are doing that transfer. It's also not a very far drive from Animal Kingdom to Blizzard Beach. It was really only 5 to 10 minutes. So it's a bit of a pain for sure, but it wasn't terrible. The reason why you don't need to transfer over at the All-Stars or Coronado is because you would be going backwards to Animal Kingdom in order to go frontwards to Blizzard Beach. So it's just a much quicker from there to here, from All-Stars and Coronado, going right to Blizzard Beach. So that's how that works. I don't know how it will work in the summer when it's going to be busier or for Typhoon Lagoon, but that's how it is working now, and that's how it's worked since COVID. When I walked in, I was greeted by cast members that had a whole bunch of towels, and the towels were complimentary if you were staying at one of the Disney resorts. I didn't need to prove it. I just had to tell them the name of the hotel. So I guess that's a bit of a tip if you're staying somewhere else. And I just scanned my magic band. I walked in, got a towel, and then I entered the park. My immediate thought was how chill it was. Now, I don't just mean that because Blizzard Beach is like a cold ski resort that is now a water park. The vibes immediately were chill. So when you walk into Magic Kingdom, for example, or even when you walk into Hollywood Studios or Epcot, there's just so many people and the music, and I recognize it can be really, really overwhelming. But that wasn't the case with Blizzard Beach. I walked in and there weren't a lot of people around, even though it was full. I definitely saw people, but it's not like people are congregating at the front of the park to take pictures and all that stuff. No, people are really dispersed through the park. When you walk in, right to the left is the largest of the different food stations. You can mobile order, but you can also just wait in line. I was so shocked about how many different bars there were around Blizzard Beach. If you like to drink a lot, then go to the water park. Which seems super weird. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a drinker for sure, but I thought that it was very weird that there were that many places to get alcohol at a water park. I was don't you want to be sober to watch your kids to prevent them from drowning? But hey, nobody works as hard as a Disney lifeguard, so I guess that is the case for that. There was also a place right at the front where you could get little donuts, and so it smelled really delicious, and yeah, it was very chill. To the right of that is a place that you can change. So there are bathrooms, but also change rooms that, at least in the women's change room, had little curtains, so you had some privacy. There were lockers that you would go up to somebody and you would rent a locker from that person and then come back with your key. So I guess that's a way so that people aren't sharing keys throughout the day. Now, I didn't rent a locker because I planned on not renting a locker. So what I did was I came in water shoes that I had, and I also came with a dress, and then underneath the dress was my bathing suit. I was wearing bathing suit bottoms and then waterproof shorts and then a bikini top. I also had a bag with me that was semi-waterproof, and I do have a thing to put my phone in, a waterproof thing to put my phone in, but I forgot it. So I should have brought it, but I didn't have it. And kind of what my plan was really just take my dress off, put it in this waterproof bag, and hide it somewhere. Just hide it in a bush, and keep my phone with me. And that is exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. I didn't change. I didn't have any extra stuff. And again, because I was just coming from the hotel, I knew I was going to go back to the hotel, and I didn't really want to bring a whole bunch of stuff with me. I wish I had my waterproof case for my phone, but whatever. The iPhones are really water resistant these days. And I just, like I said, hid my stuff underneath a bush. Now, I also bought sunscreen in a water bottle, and whatever, if it got stolen, nothing was a huge loss. So that's a little bit of a tip for you. There were a lot of different wayfinding maps that were posted around the park, and a lot of people were around them trying to figure out where they were. I did not find it very intuitive to kind of figure out where things were going. And in fact, seeing so many people around all the maps made it seem oh, I get it. People can't really navigate this intuitively either. Now, that shouldn't be the case. There is a lazy river that's a big circle that goes around the park, and then all of the stuff, the water slides, the kids area, the wave pool are all in the middle. Now, because I didn't have a lot of time and I was very tired, I really just wanted to do the lazy river. And what's really interesting is that, like, I just didn't feel that things had been updated for a long time. Like the lazy river is called, I can't even remember actually, but there are different points of entry and exit. There was no official beginning and there was no official end. So there was one entry point where most people were, and you just kind of stand there waiting for an inner tube if you want an inner tube to go around the lazy river. The different exits off the lazy river all have different names. So the idea is you would like remember the name, the one that you got in or out of, or like the one that you need to exit from, and then you would exit there. But the name of the lazy river was a lot more prominently displayed in all of those different locations than the actual name of the like exit that it was. So I don't know, it just didn't. I feel like if they were creating that now, it would be designed in a way that would be more intuitive. And because it's there, it's been there for 30 years, they, haven't really thought too much about it. People don't get lost. It's a circle, deal with it. So I only did the lazy river because, again, I was really tired. But I found that there were parts of the lazy river that were quite lazy and very just kind of lovely. And then there were parts where there were a lot of people and it felt really rambunctious. And of course, that makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of other things around the park that get kids, adrenaline going. And I guess get adults lubricated with alcohol as well. But it was a very nice experience going around by myself, going around solo. There were some spots actually that had some really beautiful flowers, and that was actually a really interesting part of this trip. And I don't know if it's just because it was spring and they planted certain flowers, or these flowers only come out in spring, but there were a lot of different spots both at Blizzard Beach but around the other parks too that just had these beautiful flowers. And again, coming from the last 4 months of winter in Canada, it was so nice to see these pops of color. And so the lazy river had some really interesting moments, but they weren't the ones that were designed. They were the ones that I looked for. And again, that's what's really nice and special about solo travel, that you can look for things that only you want to see because you're there by yourself. When I was done my little lazy river, which was about 30 or 40 minutes in the water, I went back and my bag was right there, untouched, and it could have been there all day. As I was saying to somebody, I don't remember which solo story it was. Nobody is stealing your stuff at Disney. Now, maybe at Blizzard Beach, because also more local Floridians go, and so it's not just tourists, but I don't know. I did not really feel at all like anything was going to get stolen. So should you do Blizzard Beach if you are solo? I would say definitely check it out. Especially during this promotion. I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more if it was a perk that I got on my last day. On my last day, when I've, spent all this time in the parks and I'm relaxing, and there, it's that liminal time between when you've checked out of your hotel and when you got to get to the airport. It would have been a really cool thing just to kind of explore. Getting there right away and going to Blizzard Beach, it was a weird blend of energy, right? It was a weird blend of really chill energy, but also very, I don't want to say chaotic, but rambunctious energy, which is cool. Kids, go be rambunctious, So I definitely think you should check it out. I was able to do it in an hour, 2 hours, really, round trip. And if you have that time on your first day, then definitely go check it out. I don't see why not. Is it something that you should buy a ticket for and plan on doing on a whole day? No, I don't think so. I don't think there's enough things for adults to do. Some of the water slides were only for 2 people or more. So it's not really something, I think, as an adult by yourself, you could spend the whole day in and feel like it was worth your time. But to go for an hour, 2 hours, go on the lazy river, go down a couple water slides, bebop around in the wave pool, yeah, why not? why not? Especially because it's a free perk right now. And, the episode on stretching the budget that I did, that I know a lot of you really liked, this is a really good way to stretch your budget because you don't need a park ticket for that particular day, but you can go and experience some other kind of Disney stuff, although it wasn't too Disney actually, but you can go and experience another like area of Disney and enjoy it as a solo. So there you go. I was very glad I went, and I would definitely, when I'm going again later on in the year, try to bring it into my schedule for the first day. I wouldn't prioritize it, but if the timing worked, I definitely would. I would do it again for sure. But the main thing that I did on my first day was to go to the outlet mall. So there is the character warehouse at the Vineland Outlet Mall. And normally, if you don't have a car, you would take an Uber to it. You are leaving Disney property and you are going to an open air Disney outlet mall. Now, there's a lot of different stores there. There's Coach, there's Ferrari. I don't know. That was weird. There's an Old Navy there. I don't know. There's a lot of different things, but I only go to one store, and that is the Character Outlet. Now, the Character Outlet is all of the merchandise from the parks as well as the cruise line and special events like the different Run Disney events that they're not selling anymore. So, for example, they had a lot of things from 2024 that said 2024 on it. Well, we're now in 2025, so they can't sell that in these stores. They had actually a lot of cruise merchandise, which was a real surprise. A lot of stuff from the Disney Wish, which I guess they just have like new merchandise for the Disney Wish. They had some merchandise from the last Run Disney event, the Princess Half Marathon. And they had some things like they have toys and things like that. So I've now done this for the last few trips. I will go there on my first day. And what happens is I get all this stuff on discount and I just get my shopping out. And especially because I go fairly regularly to Disney, there are things that I have seen in the parks. And now 6 months later or whatever, it's in the character warehouse for a discount. And so I had these Encanto glasses, like these water glasses that I bought. And I noticed that because I'd been putting them in the dishwasher, they completely lost all their color. So I don't remember how much I bought them for originally. I don't know, maybe $10, $15 each. That seems really expensive because when I found them at the character warehouse, they were only $2 each. And I was like, oh, I will take another set of 4. Thank you very much. So I did that again this trip. I spent $40 and I got 9 different items. And I am glad, I guess, I haven't done a Disney cruise because there was a ton of cruise merchandise that I would have snapped up right away if I had a Disney cruise planned. But I bought t-shirts from 2024, hoodies from 2024. I bought stuff from the Disney Run, the Run Disney Princess event, which I talk about actually in the solo story that's going to be out later this month. I got a pair of flip-flops. I got some of the souvenirs that you get during the different Epcot food festival scavenger hunts. I got those things oh my God. Anyway, $40 for 9 items. And it was fantastic. I loved it. It was the best. But then the problem is for the rest of the trip, every time I see a hoodie, I was like, I don't know. I did buy that hoodie for $1.99 at the Character Warehouse outlet. Now, the discounts aren't always that deep, but you can get some really good discounts. So again, I went with Lauren, who was on this podcast, and she got a ton of stuff. She spent more than me, but she also got a Loungefly backpack and ears and other things like that related to Disney cruising. I mean, it's really fun. So I don't love going off property at all on my Disney trips, but that is one trip I'll always make an exception for because Yeah, I always get such great deals, and it really does save me money for the rest of the trip because it's really hard to buy a shirt or buy like a Spirit jersey for $90 when you have seen one at the Character Warehouse for like 15, 20, $25. So anyway, I really enjoyed that. And then what was really funny is coming home, like, when you're exiting the airplane and you're going to customs, well, at least in Canada, you're going to customs. I passed the pilot of our plane and he's like, that's a lot of Disney merchandise you got. And I was like, there's more in my backpack. And he said, oh gosh, you're like my wife. And then I don't know how he segued, but then he just was like, the Disney character outlet. And I was like, yes, 100%. And he's like, oh gosh, whenever we go to Disney, we will go a couple times over the week because there's always new merchandise. And I was like, oh my God, I can't. I can't do that. But anyway, it's definitely worth the trip. I've done it solo. Like this time I did it with Lauren, which was really awesome. But I've done it solo and I've taken a Lyft or an Uber. It's very safe. It's a very quick trip and I highly recommend it. But if you're going, don't go with a shopping list in mind because you will be disappointed. Just be like open to what you're going to find there. And if you see something great, you see a good deal, then get it. But I don't necessarily think I'm going to find a shirt there next time for $1.99 because there's a deep discount when it is 2024 and it's now 2025. That's not necessarily going to be the case in September. So don't go in with any expectations. Don't go in with a shopping list, but just be open-minded and you'll be surprised and delighted and you'll save money. And I love doing all those things. All right, let's talk about day 2. So I had a reservation at Crystal Palace, and it was my first time going to that restaurant, and I was very, very excited. Now, I don't remember if I made the reservation as one of the last breakfast reservations because I like to sleep in or because I wanted to test out the theory that you could also try the lunch menu when you stay late for breakfast. I wasn't sure which one it was, but both things worked in my favor. One of the things I was really interested in seeing in Crystal Palace was, yes, of course, Pooh and Friends, but also the building itself. As I talked about a month ago, it wasn't designed to be a character dining buffet restaurant. It was actually a cafeteria style restaurant where you could pick things from a cooler. And I was really kind of interested to see if there was any vestiges, any memories, echoes of that initial design in the restaurant itself. Also, I was really interested because there's a little garden right at the beginning that was supposed to be a fountain when it opened. So again, I was just kind of interested in seeing those touches. Pooh and Friends aren't my number one characters, but I also know that they are for a lot of people. So I was also really excited to see other people's reaction to it because I know they are really special characters for people. And I was very excited about trying the food because I have heard pretty good things about it. So my initial reaction when I walked in was that it was very, very loud. Very loud and very chaotically loud. In fact, I was as soon as I walked in, I thought to myself, I don't know if I can sit in this restaurant the whole time. And I kept looking around for tables that I thought might be a little bit quieter, but I found it very loud and chaotic. Now, by the time I went up and got food and came back, there were a lot of tables that had left and it was a lot quieter. So that was really good. And I mentioned to the server too, gosh, it was really loud in here when I got here. And she's like, yeah, it can get really loud. So, that's just a note if you have some auditory issues, I guess, to know that it's not great. The space is not great for buffering sound. Now, look, I like Crystal Palace. If somebody wanted to go with me again, I would definitely go. But because of the sound thing, and also because I did find it very busy and a little dirty, actually, I would not actively go back to this restaurant. I would not actively go back to the restaurant. I didn't find that there was anything that really stood out to me as anything really, really outstanding. Now, there's two different sections to the restaurant. There is the Main Street section, and then there's the section that's the Adventureland section, which is closer to Adventureland. So I sat in that section, and I liked that we were very much like in foliage. I liked that you actually couldn't see the street. I think that the noise level plus being able to see everyone outside would have felt like a lot for me. So I did like sitting back there. But again, I just kind of found it like a little... Look, see, here's the thing. I know on that survey that you all said that you wanted more reviews, but I don't want to come down harsh on something that people really love. And I also don't want to dissuade you from trying things just because my experience was not that great. So I'm like buffering that in saying I did find it quite like dingy and dirty. Like, I don't know, there was nothing I could particularly like point to, but just the general feel was that everything needed a significant deep cleaning. I don't really feel that at Disney restaurants before. I don't know, maybe because there was carpet. I don't know. I also found the service quite slow. I didn't really see my server for a lot of the time that I was there, which wasn't a huge deal when it's a buffet. But of course, when it comes down to then tipping at the end of the time and you don't have those like special interactions with cast members, it also, it can feel kind of like, I don't know, like... how much should I tip, for example? Now, I did have some really great interactions with the culinary cast members. So the cast members who worked in the kitchen were coming out and prepping the buffet. I did have some really great interactions with them because Disney cast members are great. But my server in particular, wasn't really a standout. What was a pretty special experience at this restaurant was that I did get to try breakfast and lunch, and the lunch and the dinner menu is basically the same. So I got to try everything for breakfast, but then I went up and they had just put out all the lunch stuff. And in fact, I was like the first person up to be able to get all the lunch stuff, which was really great. So for breakfast, I didn't think there was anything that spectacular on the menu. For lunch, I did think that their options were a little bit more interesting. But what was quite interesting was that even though we were in this British building, the Crystal Palace, with these British characters, and we were between Main Street, USA, which I think of as like Middle America, and Adventureland, which is, exotic, the food was very Southern American. There was a lot of like fried chicken, gravy, grits, shrimp. So the food was good, but it didn't really make sense in terms of like the storyline of the particular restaurant or where we were or the characters. Like, it just didn't make any sense. So to me, it was like they just picked some interesting like favorites, American favorites, and they put that together. But it just felt disconnected. I didn't really feel like the buffet was that big. Maybe it's because it was between the two meals. So no, that's not it. Because it was just like duplicate food on either side. I don't know, like it was fine. The food was good. I'm glad I got to try lunch and dinner because I thought that the options were much better than breakfast. But yeah, nothing was a real standout. And if you don't love like traditional American Southern food like fried chicken and grits and shrimp and things like that, there really wasn't anything that was like a highlight for sure. Now, a lot of people talk about the churro waffles, the churro Disney waffles, and yeah, sure, I had those, but I don't know. See, if I do reviews, everyone, it's just like a downer. Because the other reviews that I have are also downers. So yeah, then at the end of literally at the end of my meal, I was able to meet the different characters. I was able to meet Piglet and Eeyore as well as Tigger. And that was really fun. Characters are always really fun. But to meet Pooh, you had to line up. And the Pooh was at the front, and there was a little bit of a line, and you would like stand in line. You would meet Pooh, get a hug, tell a story, whatever, get your pictures, and then move on. I did not love that. I did not wait in line. If I'm paying for a character meal, I don't want to wait in line to see a character. I'm going to get very snooty about this, so I'm just going to leave it at that. The same is the case with the evil queen at the Snow White restaurant at Wilderness Lodge. The characters of Grumpy and Dopey and Snow White, they come around to the table, but then to meet the evil queen, you have to go up and meet her. I haven't done that either because I don't want to wait in line, but that actually makes sense. I actually don't mind that because it is part of the story. And in that case, the cast members, like the servers, will actually come up and say, the queen is ready to see you now. So it's not just a free-for-all line, you are like summoned by the queen. And in fact, I've eaten there like 3 times, and every single time, like the shift the shift was just off. Like by the time the queen would have been ready to see me or us, when I've gone there with my mother, like we were already ready to go. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't go wait in line. But for Pooh, you had to just like wait in line when you were done your meal, or I guess in the middle of your meal. And I don't love that. I don't love that at all. Like, that's not why we're doing character dining. Now, I'm not saying that he has to come around. Maybe they've had issues with the Pooh going around. But yeah, I didn't love that. Also, none of the servers or the hosts of the restaurant, like, told me that is how it worked. I just kind of noticed that Pooh did not move. And the line was getting longer and longer. So there you go. Would I recommend going solo? Look, the food was okay. If you like those characters, then that's really great. I don't think my experience going with another adult would have been much different than going solo, but it's definitely not a restaurant that I would prioritize again. There was just nothing overly special about it. So yeah, it wasn't a disappointment because I actually I ate enough. I ate tons of food to get me through the whole day, which was really great, which was really perfect. But yeah, the other cool thing that happened, cool but kind of weird, is I got to meet another solo there. So Kelly, who I have met in the parks a couple times, and we connected on Facebook. I knew she was going to be in town as well. We were texting to see if we could arrange a time because she was actually going back home that day. And I said, oh, you can join me for breakfast, but she already had breakfast plans, and she's like, I'll just come by and say hello. It's like, great, that'd be awesome, but it is a character dining, and it is a buffet. I don't know if they're just going to let you come and say hello. Like, we'll just meet afterwards. And then all of a sudden I sit down with a plate of food, and here comes Kelly with a big smile on her face, waving. And she said, oh, I just went up to the host and said, I'm here to see a friend. They just let me in. And she sat there at the same time that all the characters came around, and the character attendants would talk to her and be like, oh, come up for a picture. And Kelly was like, no, I'm not really here. I'm not here for the pictures. Like, she was so respectful and conscientious about the fact that she wasn't paying for that experience, but nobody cared. It was really, really funny. It was really funny because I said to her, can you imagine if you were like, oh, I'm here to see a friend, and that friend was Winnie the Pooh? Like, I'm here to bypass the line and get free food. So yeah, she didn't eat. I think we got a couple pictures together with the characters because the characters were they didn't care. But yeah, that was pretty funny. And it was really, really great to see her. This is now the 3rd trip that we have overlapped on. And again, it's wonderful to connect with solos when I'm there. It's been a real wonderful bonus of having the podcast. So I also went to the Flower and Garden Festival twice, maybe 3 times across the whole trip, which was really wonderful. I'm going to talk more about the Flower and Garden Festival next week, so I'm not going to talk about that now. But it was really cool to see some different photo opportunities and things like that. I really enjoyed that. And the Flower and Garden Festival definitely, hands down, is my favorite festival. And I'm surprised that nobody has corrected me on this, because I have kept saying that the Food and Wine Festival is the OG festival. It's the original festival. And so festivals like the Flower and Garden Festival or the Festival of the Arts have had to be a lot more unique in their food offerings and their programming options, whereas the Food and Wine Festival doesn't need to try that hard. And nobody has corrected me that actually the Flower and Garden Festival has been around longer than the Food and Wine Festival. So I guess thanks for not correcting me. Now, I am right, but it is also right that the Flower and Garden Festival has been around longer. But the Flower and Garden Festival did not start with the same food booths and things like that. It started with the topiaries, it started with the gardening and things like that. So one of the reasons why the different foliage and the flowers and the that type of programming at the Flower and Garden Festival is so robust is because it has been around for 30 years. It's things like the menus and the food and things like that has been, newer. That's just not how the Flower and Garden Festival started. That's how the Food and Wine Festival started. That's what I mean about the Food and Wine Festival is known for that, but then the other festivals have had to try harder and having more unique food offerings. So anyway, I'll talk a little bit more about that next week, but it was really great. And again, it's definitely my favorite festival. Also, with the Flower and Garden Festival, on the first night that I got there, I also was able to spend some time with Matt Richardson, who is somebody that I have interviewed on the podcast, and he has such great knowledge and experience with the different parks. And it was really great to see him in person, and he was planning on running the Run Disney Springtime Surprise half marathon or whatever that weekend. And so it was really cool to hear all about that experience of training and what those different marathons were like. And I think I'm going to do a lot more stuff around the next Run Disney event, especially because of a new solo story I have at the end of this month. So stay tuned for that. The other time-sensitive thing that I wanted to do was to do Muppets Vision 3D. I had a little outfit. It was inspired by Miss Piggy in Muppets Vision 3D. I had a little purse that was like Bean the bunny with butterflies coming out of it, because Bean walks around with little butterflies. I had this fascinator. I wore pearls, and I had a little badge on my dress. It was very, very cute. But as soon as I put all the outfit together with my parasol, because it was still quite sunny, and I looked in the mirror, I was like, oh my God, I look like a church lady from 1960, and not a fun one, but probably a racist one in the South in 1960. Anyway, I did look pretty cute despite kind of feeling like an extra in the color purple or something. And it was a really great outfit. I met some cast members who were really, really fantastic, and they were so excited to do a whole bunch of photos with the photo pass, which was really, really fun. Plus, I got to meet up with Lauren again, and she had an outfit that was Rainbow Connection Kermit the Frog, so we had some pictures together as well. And again, solo trips are great, obviously, I love them, but being able to connect with other people that are really into these same things and to share these one-off experiences with them is just really fantastic. So Lauren and I did Muppets Vision 3D together. We also went to Mama Melrose, which was one of the Muppets area restaurant, and that food was fine, whatever. It's kind of what you expected. It's going to be closed soon, so I'm not going to go into a full review, but that was really awesome to be able to share that last Muppet Vision 3D experience with somebody who was as into it as I was. All right, so the new Polynesian restaurant, I was really interested in checking out, as well as checking out the tower. Turns out you can't actually look around the tower unless you are staying at the tower. I did get to go up and down a few floors, and then all of a sudden the elevator just locked me out. And I didn't actually get to find the floor that I wanted, but there you go. The lobby of the new Polynesian Tower is just beautiful, 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 beautiful. There's actually no like concierge desk is just kind of staff members walking around. And there were places to sit if, for example, you had a laptop and you wanted to go and sit somewhere for an hour or so. It didn't look super comfortable, but there were places to sit, and some really, really amazing artwork. Really amazing. It was gorgeous. So I went and I ate at the lounge, and it was like the end of the day, so I decided to like have a full meal, and it was fine. I had a chopped salad with some giant shrimp, and the giant shrimp, it was an excellent addition. The shrimp was the best thing that I ate the whole week I was there. I had a non-alcoholic drink, which was fine, but I mean, all of the food, the fine food aside, the views were spectacular. The views were just spectacular. I could see the Contemporary Resort. I could see Magic Kingdom. The infinity pools that are like behind the different banquettes were just gorgeous. Even though it was very hot out, there was a breeze. It was just a beautiful, beautiful space. They had Hawaiian music playing. I really could have sat there all day, like with a book. It just was really nice. And I guess I was there around 4 o'clock. It wasn't that busy. I didn't wait at all for a table. There was also tons of seating inside that was pretty empty. Everyone really wanted to sit outside. And, there was a table they sat me at and I didn't like it. So I asked to move somewhere else. And I got a much better view. That is the theme of not next week, but the week after that. The theme of that episode is just ask if you need something different. So I had a really great view. And then, which was a really lovely bonus, this woman sat beside me, and I knew she was solo, but we started talking, and anyway, she was a delight. Her name is Sabrina. I was like, Sabrina, you need to come on the podcast. She was a little bit older, and she was like, oh, I don't know, my grandkids, and she said, oh, I've met a couple vloggers. I'm like, well, now you met a podcaster. So we took some pictures, and I don't know, I hope to have her on the podcast. She was sounding so disappointed about her last minute trip. So I'm thinking that she's staying at one of the value resorts. And then she goes to list all of the different deluxe resorts that she's staying at as a DVC member. And anyway, she was just a delight. It was really lovely meeting her. So hopefully we'll get her on the podcast and you can hear all about Sabrina's solo adventures. And the reason why I really invited her was because she was saying oh, so-and-so will say, I'll come with you on the trip. And I'm like, I don't want you on the trip. I was like, yeah, that's the energy we're looking for. So anyway, that was really wonderful. Finally, you all really encouraged me to have more of a relaxing, hashtag Disney Solo Magic type trip, not to get the lightning lanes and push really hard, but really kind of enjoy and relax. And I took that. In fact, every time I had a decision to make about, well, should I push myself and do this one other thing, or should I kind of take a step back and take a break? And every time I thought of your decision making about just take a step back and take a break. And I really appreciated that as kind of a guiding light for the trip. One thing that happens every time I go this time of year is that I forget how hot it is. So one of the days I got a sunburn and I really was wiped out, and I would think to myself, should I do I have a sunburn? Should I just keep going? Should I just get a coffee and keep going? Or maybe should I go back to the hotel and rest and then get some energy and keep going? And I was like, you know what? No, there's no reason to push and be uncomfortable, So I would go back and I would rest, and then I would be a little bit more energetic to go out again. Or if I was thinking my last hour in the park, my last hour, I was at the Grand Floridian and I was going back to get the bus to go to my hotel and pick up my suitcase. And I just thought to myself, well, should I just go and get one last look at the castle, or should I just go and get back on the bus? And I was like, no, take the time you need to restore and relax. And I went right into the park. I took some pictures with the castle, and I just kind of relaxed. I just kept choosing what will make me feel relaxed, even though it might not seem like going to Magic Kingdom for like 20 minutes before you have to catch a flight or whatever seems relaxing. But I just kept choosing that. And the last day I found a spot to go swimming. And as soon as I got in that pool, I just thought, yeah, like this is so important to be able to do. The trip was really, really fun. Hot though, and like I said, nothing spectacular I ate. So having the time to just kind of get in the water and like consolidate those things was just so important to put that trip together and like remember why I was there. And it was really relaxing, and I really appreciated you all encouraging me to do that. Now, that's not to say that I didn't do some rides. In fact, like I've said on this podcast before, I find Tiana's Bayou Adventure a very like interesting, like a very kind of spiritual ride. I don't know what it is. And so I waited in line. I'm not really a line waiter, but I waited in line. It was only like 35 minutes. And I waited in line to go do the ride because I was thinking, oh, you know what? I do think this would be like a really restorative moment. Plus, every time I've done it, I've done the lightning lane. So I've done all the inside queue. But because it was an outside queue that you had to wait for 35 minutes, I got to like go around the gardens. And so I just made that part of the trip. I made that part of my experience. I took a ton of pictures of the different flowers and set pieces and things like that in the queue. And I really just tried to like focus on enjoying like being in that space and the storytelling, and it was really lovely. And I did the train a couple times because again it was like that's the speed that I'm at. So thank you again for encouraging me to have kind of a healing trip, because that looks and feels different for everyone. But when I was just thinking like, yeah, that's what people said that this trip should be, every time I made a decision I really kept that in mind. So thank you so much for that. So that is my trip in sum. There are a few other things I'm going to talk about the more we like get into the programming for April and May that I'll talk about. I did a whole bonus episode a couple solo trips ago about everything that I ate, but again, there wasn't anything really spectacular that I ate on this trip. So I tried to provide the reviews for Crystal Palace, for example, in this episode. And, the food that I've heard, like the experience of the food that I've heard at the new Polynesian Tower Lounge is kind of the same as mine. Like, it was fine. It was good. It was nothing spectacular. The portions were kind of small. It was expensive, but the fact that you're in that space is worth it. So I would definitely encourage you to go. There were a lot of tables for two, so it's quite easy to be able to eat there solo. Oh my gosh, there was one thing I wanted to mention with that, the Polynesian Tower. So when I was coming up to the Polynesian Tower, it said there was going to be a 10-minute wait, and there was like a thing that you could put your name on the waiting list in the app. So I go to put my name on the waiting list, and it said how many people, and I put 1, and it said, no, we cannot accommodate that party size. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure you can. So I went up to 2 different cast members, one at the back of the restaurant and then one at the front of the restaurant. And they were like, oh, that's really weird. Of course we can accommodate a table for 1. No problem. So anyway, just so you know that if that happens to you, go up to the cast members. It's probably just a glitch. You could also say that you're there for a party of 2 because you're going to get seated in the same place anyway. So there you go. All right, solos, until next time, Flower and Garden Festival, both in the parks and at home. I can't wait. Make sure you join me on Patreon. There's going to be a behind-the-scenes little snippet for the Dole Whip tier about this particular episode, some other things that maybe I didn't mention, and there is also going to be some voice notes and other pictures and things like that for the Mickey Bar tier, and yeah, I'm really excited for that as a space of community. I hope you are too. Please check it out. There's a 7-day free trial, and remember, all of the videos from the solo stories are going to come up. And so many of you were interested in doing solo stories that I think that we're going to do just a whole month of solo stories. So I can't wait for that. You should not miss out on that either. So please join me on Patreon. Until next time, bye. Hey Solos, it's Samantha. I hope you like this episode as well as all the episodes of Disney Solo Magic, the #1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World. You can support this podcast by rating, reviewing, subscribing, and sharing this podcast on Apple, Spotify, and on the YouTube platforms. However, you can also support this podcast and build the Disney Solo Magic community by joining us on Patreon. We have 3 different tiers at different price points, starting at $2 American, and I'm hoping that it will be a really great place that you can meet other people, both get and share tips and tricks for solo travel to Disney World, and to create larger conversations about how to bring Disney Solo Magic into your everyday life. So please join us. The link to the Patreon is below.